to all the bold, courageous, and powerful women tuning in to Find Your Fabulous. I'm your host, Dr. Diane, and it's time to ignite your full power. Are you ready to embrace your talents and worth and unleash the wise goddess within? I've got the information, inspiration, and revelation you need to ignite your personal power so you can stop playing small and reclaim the passion and purpose that we all hold within us. Connect with other powerful spiritual women who yearn to be fully expressed. The world needs you. Full power. Let me guide you to find your fabulous and ignite your inner goddess. It all starts now on the Find Your Fabulous show.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Diane Garrison, and you are listening to the Find Your Fabulous show on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour and let us help you experience the pathway to finding your fabulous. Join us every first and third Monday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time and 10 a.m. Central Time, where we will have information, inspiration, and revelation to help you ignite your personal power and reclaim the passion and purpose we all hold within us. I have with me my wonderful guest, Dr. Rita Louise. Good morning, Dr. Rita.
Good morning, Diane. How are you? Or should I call you Dr. Diane? I didn't ever ask that back.
That's okay. Dr. Diane, it all works. Just don't call me late for dinner. And my fabulous producer, Emily, who is working for us behind the scenes. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning, Dr. Diane.
So today I will be talking to Dr. Rita Louise about her latest book, Dang It, It Was Me All Along. We will unpack how our blindness to our own neurotic patterns can keep us trapped in unhappiness, regardless of our education, expertise, and spiritual gifts. Then we will explore your pathway to finding true healing and happiness. So let me first introduce my wonderful guest, Dr. Rita Louise. She has been called Fran Drescher's delivery without the wine. I just love that. Dr. Rita Louise's frank, funny, honest approach is infectious. She is the founder of the Institute of Applied Energetics and the former host of Just Energy Radio. She is a naturopathic doctor, a medical intuitive, and an intuitive counselor and life coach. She is the author of many books, including the one we're talking about today, Dang, It Was Me All Along, but also The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist, Stepping Out of Eden, E.T. Chronicles, What Myth and Legend Have to Say About Human Origin, Avoiding the Cosmic 2x4, that one sounds very juicy, Dark Angels, An Insider's Guide to Ghosts, Spirits, and Attached Entities, and The Power Within, a Psychic Healing Primer, as well as hundreds of articles that have been published worldwide. Dr. Rita has appeared on film, radio, television, and has spoken at conferences around the world covering topics such as health and healing, relationships, ghosts, intuition, ancient mysteries, and the paranormal. That is our Dr. Rita. And before we begin to talk about your wonderful book, I want to ask you the question I ask all my guests. What does becoming full power mean to you? And how did you discover yours? And how did this becoming inspire you to write this book?
Well, that's a pretty loaded question for first one. I still struggle with my power. It's like people see me and they go, wow, she's really powerful and she's really strong. But internally, it's just me. And I just do what I do. And I just do what I'm led to do. And there's a part of me that goes, if you sit there and say, well, I'm powerful and I'm this great person, it would give me a big head. And I don't want a big head. I just want to be me. And I just want to be compassionate. And I just want to do what I do. And so I just do what I do, which tends to be really powerful.
You can know that, baby. But how did you step more fully into your gifts, and how did it create this great library of books that you have published, and this last one, which I think is a very personal book?
So I started on, and I'm going to say my spiritual path when I was about 12 or 13 years old. I came from a very toxic family and spent years working on myself. But at the same time, I became fascinated with the whole concept of, back in the day, it was ESP, now known as like psychic abilities or intuition. And, studied that, learned about that, even though for the longest time, I didn't really think that I was particularly intuitive. I mean, I knew I had some gifts, but not anything that I could readily access. Found the Berkeley Psychic Institute, studied with them, discovered after being in their program for 3 weeks that I had been very intuitive my whole life, but no one ever connected the dots for me to say, when you have this experience, that is a psychic experience. It was like, oh, interesting. And, that led me on. I started doing energy work with clients and readings, and I was always finding their health issues, which led me to go back to school to get my degree as a naturopath, because the first question would always be, well, what can I do? And I had nothing. Well, you can meditate. And then finally getting my Ph.D. in natural health counseling with a focus on how our thoughts and emotions affect our health.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it led you on this path. But then you started doing TV and movies and shows and books. It just kept on expanding, right?
I just go where I'm being led. And if an opportunity presents itself, I don't say no.
That's a beautiful thing.
Because I figure, spirit's throwing stuff in our path. And I do check in. It's like, is this something I should do? And if I get a yes, then I just do it. And I don't let my personal fear get in the way of achieving something that might be scary.
And that's big, right? Because a lot of us do let our fear be a stop sign versus just a qualifier. Yep, it's new, so it's going to be scary.
And I just go, okay, you're hitting some resistance, and what's that about? And, and if you can separate out, this is really a no versus it's bouncing off of my inner ideas and what I think I can do and identify it as fear. It's like, oh, I'm scared. That idea really scares me. And it's like, okay. Face that demon, move forward.
Right. The truth is, anytime we try to do something new or we get a new idea, it's going to trigger fear. That's just the way we're wired, unfortunately, as human beings. So let's talk more about what inspired you to write this particular book. Dang, it was me all along.
So I have to kind of backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
So I have a history of getting into not healthy relationships, and didn't even know it. It wasn't on my radar, and so I had ended a relationship with a gentleman who was pretty toxic. Turned out he had a brain tumor, which I didn't know, but he was pretty toxic, and ended up writing the book, The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist, because that whole concept came to the forefront. And in my own personal evaluation, I had realized, this is where this little light bulb came on, that basically all of my relationships going back to my family of origin involved narcissistic people. And it was like, okay, so I need to unwind this because I like researching, I like deep diving, and I needed to understand what was going on because I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to fix that. So that created that book. So the book ends and I'm finishing it up and I'm working on the last chapter. I meet this guy. He, seemed very emotionally secure, seemed really into me, blah, 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 blah. And so it's this message of hope that things can be better, except they weren't. And he was not good. And so that relationship ended, and you get to the place where it's like, you've done all this stuff. So what's the common denominator? I can't point my finger at you anymore. So where do I point the finger? And I had to point the finger at me and go, okay, so what am I doing? And at the same time, it's like, all I really wanted was to be happy, to feel contentment. I had a lot of negative thinking, a lot of not happiness in my life, and I just wanted to be happy. That was the goal, but I didn't know if it was something you could get. I didn't know if it was a goal you could have, or, is my little cranky self just who I am? And I just have to live with that for the rest of my life. And early on in my research, I discovered that it is something that you can facilitate and actually have in your life. Thus started this whole process into uncovering that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just fascinating. And, we're going to be digging into Dr. Rita's book, but it's very juicy and it covers many of the things that I have discovered through my journey, not only as a psychologist for forever, but all of my spiritual growth and journey and into transformational processes. Because, like you, Dr. Rita, I had to heal myself. I had a big old Ph.D., but I was also as stuck could be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's really interesting, and I can't wait for us to kind of really dig into this. And have you found, here's another loaded question, forgive me, that your research and doing the practices that you outline in this book have indeed brought you this inner happiness and peace?
I found it hugely transformational. You sit there and you listen to somebody like me talk and you think, oh my God, it's going to be so hard and I have to do all of this stuff. And I found that it was actually really easy and it didn't take up all my time. And one of the things that I found was that I took all of my self-help books and all those videos I used to watch and put them down and said, you know what, we're starting from today. And what are we doing today and moving forward? And so and I'm just going to say this, the brokenness I felt inside, I just said, you know what, it is, and so where do I go from here? Well, one of the things that I found was so many of the self-help books just validate your brokenness.
Without giving you practical tools to improve that.
I mean, they give you tools, but it just, kind of reminds you, so you're reading a book about codependency, and so,
yeah,
but you're walking around with that moniker, I'm a codependent. And it's I need to just put all of that down and just be me and go from there.
And that's a very, very beautiful thing. You are listening to Dr. Diane and the Find Your Fabulous show. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Dr. Rita and I will continue to unpack her fabulous book, Dang, It Was Me All Along. Before we break, Dr. Rita, how can listeners reach out to you, and how can they get their hands on your book?
Okay. So my website is soulhealer.com, soulhealer.com. And so you can find out everything about Dr. Rita on that site, including purchasing the book. And if you buy it from my website, it does come autographed. But the book is available. All of my books are available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, all the regular places.
Beautiful, beautiful. And for all things fabulous, including my coaching services and free empowerment resources, you can check out my website at www.fullpowerwomen.com. And stay tuned. We'll be right back in a minute or so. Hello, we are back on live at Find Your Fabulous with Dr. Diane. My special guest today is Dr. Rita Louise, naturopathic doctor, medical intuitive counselor and life coach, and author of Dang, It Was Me All Along. Dr. Rita, would you say most people are happy or unhappy?
So there was a National Science Foundation research study that was done that identified that 80% of people live in negative thinking, which says they're not really happy. So for anyone listening who thinks, oh, well, so-and-so is always so happy, maybe not. Because we think other people, are great or happy or these things, but maybe not on the inside.
Right. What do you think? I certainly have ideas, but what do you think is going on inside that is keeping us from feeling contented with ourselves and our lives? What did you discover in all your research?
And so, well, for me, it was my negative thinking and, but there's so much. And I'm like, okay, pick one. There's what's going on inside of us. There are the programs and scripts that we take on when we're young that guide how we view life and how we view our relationships with other people or view ourselves. So do we have the programming that says we can go climb that mountain and succeed? Or do we have the programming that says, oh, it's too hard, and we just shrug our shoulders and walk away? And everything we do is based on that. Not necessarily your happiness, but, how we interact in our daily lives.
Right. And these programs are in our unconscious mind. So it's not like we have easy access to them or can go, oh, no, I'm turning that one off. It's in our unconscious mind. It gets triggered by outside events, and then all this crap pops up into our mind.
Mm-hmm. But one of the things and the focus of Dang, It Was Me All Along is to start becoming more conscious of when these programs start to come to the surface. If something happens and we respond or have a reaction to it, but when we have that reaction, it gives us the opportunity to go, hey, I just had a reaction to that, and my reaction wasn't particularly healthy. So what was the trigger? What was my reaction? And is there a better choice I can make in that response?
Absolutely. You need to notice what you're noticing, right? You have to be more conscious and self-aware of what's going on in you.
Mm-hmm. But we're not taught that, as people, we're taught to live on autopilot. And as I said at the very beginning, we just assume this is who we are, and we don't think that we can change it. And I'm here to tell everybody change is possible.
Yes.
And not that hard.
Change is very possible, which is why I do what I do. It's what Dr. Rita does, what she does. Change is possible. And if I could change this stubborn, perfectionist hot mess, anybody can change. Now, your book explains in a very kind of easy to understand ways how this programming gets into us, these beliefs when we're children. Let's unpack that a little more, because I think people think they blame themselves for their programs. Like, I'm the problem in terms of these beliefs and these behaviors these beliefs trigger, versus we didn't ask for these programs.
No. And it's based on how people treat us, how we interact with them. Okay, so this was in my dysfunctional dance book, because I tell more of like my history in that book. And, so one of the programs that was installed, so I was born breech with the cord around my neck. And so apparently the doctor must have said something to my mother about me potentially being, and I'm going to use this word, I know it's not politically incorrect, but that I might have been retarded. And she would remind me of that regularly, like, wow, but from inside my body, it's kind of like, well, am I challenged? Do I have this issue going on? And would I notice that I'm slow in some way? I mean, you just don't know because it's you, but you're being reminded, and
Right.
And it took, and I'm a little dyslexic, which really didn't help anything. Well, but it just added to it, validated the program.
Right. That there's something wrong with me. Right.
That there's something wrong with me, but apparently, see, this is why I just am me. Apparently, I'm really freaking smart. And I have a great mind, and it's not big-headed, and I just am me, and I apparently am not mentally challenged. Well, in my own way, but not in that way.
Right. So the psych research says that we have our basic belief systems in place by the time we are 6 or 7 years old. All right. How much wisdom, how much freedom, how much brain development do we have when we're 6 or 7? Like None. Very little, right? Very little. So these beliefs are a childish interpretation of the events around them. And sometimes they're really stressful events around them. And they make a childish interpretation, like something, if mom and dad are always fighting, you might believe there must be something wrong with me. I must be unlovable. They're always unhappy. And so, and then we're stuck with these dang childish interpretations of the world for the rest of our life until we start this process that your book is all about, taking people on that journey of noticing these stuck patterns in our lives, right? And then doing the brave things to start unsticking yourself.
Well, and sometimes those brave things are white knuckle events.
Oh, for sure.
Where you sit there and go, okay, this isn't good and this isn't healthy. And I know I need to do it. And you're like hanging on to the armrest of the chair and maybe not breathing very much. But you make the choice to love and honor yourself enough to do the thing, to make that choice for yourself.
And I just want to put out there, you don't have to do it alone. There's people like me and Dr. Rita who would love to help guide you and mentor you on your journey to healing. So this isn't something you have to figure out all on your own, although I spent most of my life trying to figure out everything on my own. But it's something that you can get help and support with, because this journey is like so incredibly important to go from these childhood fear-based stuck beliefs to really step in to the wonderful, powerful person you have become over the years. It's, it's this disconnect between what I'm believing about myself and what I'm actually doing in the world. And that's why it feels so painful and we can be so very unhappy.
Well, and So one of the things that I noticed in doing this work, so it was like after 6 months, I noticed, and again, not a lot of effort on my part, just awareness, huge changes in 6 months, huge, and then after a year, things were, I could actually say that I felt content, like I could vocalize that because I was. And every so often something will happen and it'll trigger me. But my ability to address it this morning, so I have a desktop computer that's being challenging. How's that? I go to turn it on because I need to print something and it's like, your startup program isn't working. Now, if this had been 2 years ago, I would have probably had just a little bit of a meltdown. And I'm like, okay, here, let me click this button. Let me click this button. And it worked. But there was no emotional upheaval tied to it. So to me, from my measuring thing, it was huge because that could have just sent me into this whirlwind of anxiety.
Right. And now you've got more inner trust and inner confidence that I can figure this out.
Well, I know I can figure most things out. That part I don't, but, oh my God, my computer is broken. That, I got to get it fixed. Because so many people live in worry. They're living in the future, they're living in the past, and they're not living in the present with this is what's going on now and what do I need to do in this
right.
moment.
Dr. Rita, we need to head into another break and we're going to unpack that more when we come back. But before we go, Dr. Rita, remind our listeners once more how to reach out to you and how to get their hands on this beautiful book.
Sure. So they can go to my website, soulhealer.com. You can find out about the products and services I offer, including medical intuition evaluations, energy healings, and intuitive counseling. All of my books are there, as well as the books are available at any of your local online book retailers.
Beautiful, beautiful. And to learn more about my coaching services and free empowerment resources, you can check out my website at fullpowerwomen.com. And if you missed any information on this show or you just want to catch the replay, you can get access to all the episodes on my website as well. And if you have questions, you want to reach out directly, just reach out to Dr. Diane at fullpowerwomen.com. And now stay tuned. We're going into a short break and we'll be right back. Hello, we are back on Find Your Fabulous with Dr. Diane, here with my very special guest, Dr. Rita Louise, and we are exploring the teachings in her fabulous book, Dang, It Was Me All Along. So, Rita, we talked about how we all have these unconscious programs that are controlling us, keeping us stuck in these same self-defeating and even sometimes self-destructive patterns of behaving and reacting and thinking. Can we heal this? Can we find or cultivate the happiness or even joy in our life? You talk about living consciously and mindfully with self-awareness. Let's dig into that, please.
Okay. So becoming mindful is a really easy concept. And some people think that it's hard, and I keep saying that it's easy, but some people think that it's hard. And I like to liken it to dieting. Dieting is easy. You have to just not eat the food. And you have to not eat the food on a regular basis. You can't just decide, well, it's Thursday and I'm going to diet today and really expect to have results. And practicing a more mindful life, a more consciously aware life is really about the practice, and so when you start paying attention to what's going on inside, it gives, you do that all the time. And actually, I'm going to give an example to the listeners.
Sure.
And so when we're in a happy place, our energy is vibrating high and we feel good and we're in a place of gratitude and we're minimally content, but we might experience joy because something really good has happened or whatever, but higher vibrating emotions. But then things might happen. Your computer decides, I don't want to work right now. And it can take your vibration, your energy, and start to drop it. And so, one of the things that I work with my clients with, it's like, well, where's your energy now? And when you had this situation, did you maintain your vibration or did it start dropping? Because once it starts dropping, now you're moving into the energy of lower vibrating emotions, where worry can come in and anxiety can come in. And so even if you just pay attention to that shift, like, well, I was happy and now I'm not. I was happy and now I'm not, and use that as kind of the tickler for, well, wait a minute, maybe I need to stop and go, well, where's my thinking right now?
Right.
I mentioned ending that relationship. And one of the first tools that I learned, which I love and still use, and it was Esther Hicks who channels Abraham,
Right.
and it's the 17-second rule. And the 17-second rule is like the 5-second rule. You drop a piece of food on the floor and you have 5 seconds to pick it up. Well, the 17-second rule suggests that if you have a thought, after 17 seconds, the momentum starts to increase. And after another 17 seconds, it increases more. And after not that much time, it might diverge into a parallel thought or a subsidiary thought that's just enhancing the original thought in the first place. So after a minute or two, you can become well ensconced in negative thinking. But if you can catch it with that in the first 17 seconds, it's easier because there's less momentum, there's less resistance to changing it. And so when I ended that one relationship and I learned about the 17-second rule, oh my God, I'm in the shower and like I'm thinking about it. And it was like, wait, 17-second rule, and that's all I would say to myself, 17-second rule. And I would like start breathing or doing something. And, like a minute later, it would be like, I'd be thinking about, it's like, oh, 17-second rule. And, because when you interrupt the flow of that thinking, it stops the momentum. I mean, you might be well ensconced in it, and then it's kind of more challenging to address, but it gives it a break. It's kind of like going, oh, I'm going to count to 10, because that's really the goal, is to stop that momentum from moving forward. And, and I still do that. I'll be doing something and I'll catch myself in a negative thought and I'll be like, oh, 17-second rule, which is my cue to stop and have a little mindful moment, and I might do some breathing or I might do some tapping or, incorporate some different exercises, or I might go, wow, you've been in that negative thought for a really long time. and breathing's not cutting it. So you need to kind of go to plan B, like go wash the dishes, clean the bathtub. I'm big about cleaning. I don't know. That's just so weird. Go rake some leaves, go for a walk, go to the gym, which tends to work for me, if I'm really stuck in it, to burn off the energy by doing something physical.
Yeah.
So that really works for me. But you can listen to some music or, enjoy the sunshine or just even finding gratitude in anything that's going on will start to raise your vibration again and take you from doing this to doing that.
So let me see if I can summarize this. So we can't help when negative thoughts pop in our mind. That's from our programs. But we have 17 seconds to kind of switch the pathway our thinking's going, or we're going to go down the rabbit hole to hell. And so there's many, many things you can do in that 17 seconds. And you just listed a whole lot to try to kind of switch the direction of your thinking to something neutral, if not positive, something soothing, if not grateful. It's, that's a great thing. It's like this pregnant pause where you notice what you're noticing. I'm in the ugly zone and I need to switch out of that. And sometimes breathing will work. Sometimes raking leaves will work. Sometimes, just a mindfulness exercise will work, but whatever works for you, or remembering who you love will work for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's really, really great. That 17-second rule. I haven't heard that before. I've heard about, kind of pause. But that's really, really
is it
beautiful.
a metric? And I just want to say, because you made a comment, and I just want to clarify, your life is not totally messed up if you don't catch it in the first 17 seconds. The trick is to catch it, and with a little bit of practice, you can pretty easily evaluate, I've been thinking about this for a couple of minutes and it's got a lot of momentum and I'm having a little bit of challenge moving myself out of it. And sometimes you just have to go, okay, I call it bad brain. I'm having a bad brain day, and just allow your body to process it. And not beat yourself up. It's like, oh, well, you didn't get rid of it. It's like, no, I'm just having a bad brain day.
That's a great point, because as you do this healing journey, the most important thing for you to remember is to be kind and patient and compassionate with yourself, because you're trying to unstuck years of programming and years of ways of responding in just this one kind of neurotic way. You're trying to unstick that, and it's going to take some time, and it's going to take practice, and sometimes you're going to be able to shift really easy, and sometimes you won't. But you keep on keeping on.
But it's like dieting. You have those days where you get the bag of Oreo cookies and you eat half of it. And it's like, but it shouldn't deter you from starting the next day back onto your eating plan.
Right. So it's not like, oh, I ate this cookie, I blew everything, I just might as well, dive into a whole bag or box or,
For forever.
Mind likes to do this all or nothing thinking. And this self-awareness, this noticing what we're noticing about ourselves is really like this uncovering, right, process where we learn more as we pay more attention. We learn more and more and more about ourselves. Mm-hmm. I love this phrase from Emerson, and I use it all the time. Stand guard at the portal of your mind. Like, it's like giving yourself permission to pay attention to your thinking, because if we just let it go, about 95% of the time, it's going to be negative. But if we notice if we're triggered, and if we choose to purposely focus on more positive, loving, kind, compassionate, grateful, soothing things, then we can create a whole different kind of internal experience for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And it might start where all you're noticing is the negative thought, right. And that's all you're doing. But after some time, that becomes the practice, that becomes the regular thing, and it might open the door for you to start understanding what the motivation is or what the program is, or you might start to notice like, oh, well, if this happens, then I go into a round of negative thinking. And so the more you play with it and the more you are curious, I love that idea, are curious about what's going on, the deeper you can get, but to sit there and know like the deep dark secret of your programming and why you're a certain way.
Nah.
Once you just begin, maybe not, but just enjoying the journey and enjoying the unwinding. And I just like that whole idea about being curious. It's like, okay, so I just had this reaction. So what was that about?
Yeah, you're being an investigator into your own inner world.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to head into another break here. You are listening to Dr. Diane and the Find Your Fabulous show. When we come back, Dr. Rita and I will continue to explore the contents of this fascinating book and your pathway to healing and happiness. But before we break, Dr. Rita, how can our listeners reach out to you and how can they get your hands on your book?
Sure. So they can reach out to me at soulhealer.com. And just to let people know, I work with all of my clients by phone or by Skype. And so, location does not matter. And my books are available on my webpage, soulhealer.com, or amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, all the major booksellers.
Beautiful. And for all things fabulous, including my coaching services and free empowerment resources, you can check out my website at fullpowerwomen.com or shoot me an email at drdiane@fullpowerwomen.com. We're heading into a break, but we'll be right back, so hang on. Well, hello. We're back on Find Your Fabulous with Dr. Diane, and I am here with my special guest, Dr. Rita Louise, and we have been unpacking her most recent book, Dang, It Was Me All Along. And we've been talking about our mindfulness, how mindfulness and self-awareness can start helping us look at these programs that have been running in our unconscious mind since we were little kids. And I want to turn now, if we can, Dr. Rita, about reviewing some of the most basic starting places that our listeners can begin, other than going and buying your book, to start working on this place of letting their brain run amok, kind of autopilot, to this self-awareness, this mindfulness, this conscious kind of living. How would you recommend our listeners who haven't been on this path yet to begin this process?
Well, we talked about the 17-second rule, and I love it as just kind of the gateway thing. But I want to add something. Many times you read self-help books and they tell you, you should meditate and you should do this. But my personal favorite is meditation. And as Americans, we're often very challenged at meditating in the very classic sense. But I want to share a piece of insights with the listeners. The purpose of meditation is to focus our mind on one thing. It's to focus our mind on our breathing. It's to focus our mind on keeping our mind clear, but that's the goal, is to focus on something. But there are so many things we can do where we're focusing our mind. I joke around about the cleaning. But sometimes I have the very clean house, depending on what's going on, because I'm focusing on getting that soap scum out of the tub and cleaning the grout, and it's sparkly because my intention is focused on that. And then when I'm done, I feel better and have a clean tub.
Win-win.
Win-win, that's my thought. And so figuring out what works for you with that focus. And so it doesn't matter what you do. The point is the focus. So whether it's reading a book that's uplifting or listening to some soothing music or going for a walk or going to the gym or doing yoga or doing tapping, it doesn't matter. It's to get your mind to focus on this thing so that all of the other stuff that might be going on inside of it has the opportunity to be let go.
So mindfully doing whatever you're doing.
Yes.
Because, I teach my clients that, a grounding mindfulness exercise, and it's like magic. Their ruminations stop. It's like, because our brain isn't capable of focusing on our feet, connecting to the floor and running a crazy program. So it could be it could be mindfully doing dishes or cleaning the tub or doing a breathing exercise. And I just want to, I'm a huge fan of meditation, but it's called meditation practice for a reason. We got to practice it over and over again. And this whole thing about clearing your mind, I call bullshit. That's not the goal. The goal is, as Dr. Rita said, to have something that you're really focusing on, and it can be your breath. It could be a mantra. It could be the feel of your feet on the floor, your seat on the chair, your back against the backrest. It can be just about anything.
Except the negative thought that you were having before.
Right. Or, right. Don't focus on that, because then that go back to crazy town again. But it's just, and for me, and it was all over your book, it's about going inward, right? Creating some quiet time to go in and not only calm yourself, but also just to tune in to that inner world where all your intuition and your inner wisdom and all the things that help us really to live our best life exist.
Yeah. And one of the things that I expound is, when people think of meditation, they think, oh, I have to sit there for an hour and do this stuff. But many of the exercises that I offer, and dang, it was me all along, are do this breathing technique 4 times. You could do it more, but 4 times. And so I have a dog and I take him outside, but I don't have a fenced yard. And so I put him on a tether and he goes and does whatever. And I sit on my porch and make sure he doesn't get tangled up and stuff. But I have gotten to where that is my mindfulness spot. And so I will do some breathing or do some tapping or, look around and focus on listening to the birds. I have a lot of birds in my area.
Oh, wonderful.
And just work on being present. But how long does it take you to take the dog outside? So I'm not out there for hours at a time, or I'll stop at a red light and I'll practice some breathing or, some exercise. And it's just really the use of those things on a regular basis that you incorporate into your life. So then when you are having a moment where things are challenging, your body, when we do relaxation things, our body will start to relax as soon as we start doing it. So, I joke around, because if people aren't familiar with tapping, the first step in tapping is to tap on this spot right here. All I have to do is act like I'm going to that spot and I can automatically feel my body relaxing because I've practiced it so much,
Absolutely.
And so I suggest to people, to start practicing this because many people, they pull their tools out of the junk drawer in the kitchen, when they're having a bad day and then get mad when they don't work.
Right. Yeah, no, it's about that, letting yourself have regular practice, even if it's for, 5 minutes a day, 3 minutes a day. It's being mindful about letting yourself be mindful.
That's right.
It could be in the car. It could be as you're standing in the grocery line waiting to check out. It could be absolutely anywhere. All you do is tune in and start taking some deep breaths and kind of check out how you're feeling inside. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can start very, very simply.
But when you start doing that, the active focusing, the active mindfulness causes the body to start releasing discord and energy, the negative emotions. And so you start feeling better. It automatically starts sending you back up the hill to positive emotions. And so that's the key to the happiness is let go of the bad, because when you let go of the bad, the only thing that's left is the good.
Right. Yeah, there's actually been research that has shown that 3 deep breaths are enough most times to switch you from being activated into being more neutral. It's 3. Anybody can remember to do 3 deep breaths, right?
I've been challenged with that sometimes, but it's a good rule of thumb.
Well, it's doable. That's the point. It's very
It's doable.
doable, right? And
But it does put that intercept in there and gives you the opportunity to think, oh, maybe there's something else I can be doing, or, it creates that intercept. It creates that pregnant pause where you can look at different choices that might be available to you.
well, my friends, we're coming to the end of this fabulous talk with Dr. Rita. We've learned about self-awareness as a tool and mindfulness to overcome that old programming in our unconscious mind that we never asked for, and the journey and the curiosity and the wonder of, I wonder what I could do here. And it's been a joy to have you on my show, Dr. Rita. I hope people will go check you out. Give us information one more time how they do that.
Okay, they can find out about me by going to my webpage, soulhealer.com. That's SOULHEALER.com, soulhealer.com. And it is loaded with articles and information and videos. I mean, there's really a ton of material on there, plus my books, which are also available on Amazon.com, etc.
Well, beautiful. And you can learn all about me on my website, fullpowerwomen.com. And before I go, I just want to share I'm giving each listener access to a new teaching and practice video I just created, Creating Inner Peace in Challenging Times, a resource to help you begin that mindful and conscious journey. You can find the link on the podcast description, and you can reach out to me at Dr. Diane at fullpowerwomen.com. I want to thank once again my guest, Dr. Rita, for sharing such great information. And I want to thank all of you, my listeners, for tuning in to Find Your Fabulous Show. I had a wonderful time. Please join me every first and third Monday of the month at 8 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Central Time. And have a beautiful day. And we'll see you back here on April 1st, where I'll be talking about our kind of crazy ADD lifestyles and the impact it has on our mental health and well-being. Until next time, go out there and find your fabulous. Bye.
I'm your host, Dr. Diane, and you have been listening to Find Your Fabulous. It's time to ignite your full power. Tune in every first and third Monday of the month at 8 a.m. Pacific Time on Transformation Talk Radio for information, inspiration, and revelation to ignite your personal power. Connect with other bold, courageous, and powerful women who are ready to stop playing small and reclaim the passion and purpose that we all hold within us. The world needs you, full power. To find your fabulous and ignite your inner goddess, visit fullpowerwomen.com.